Why is the tone so different when you take the Old Testament and the New Testament? The tone is so different from the fact that a heretic at the beginning of the church called Marcion affirmed that the God in this testament was none other than the demon, a bad god, who crushed the man under the weight of terror. While the true God, the God of the New Testament, was Jesus. The Church completely rejected this heresy by saying, "No, it is the same God who speaks in the Old Testament and the New Testament." The reason is simple. In the Old Testament, we are told of the slow progress that God brings to humanity to make it grow in righteousness, until the moment when Christ appears. From Cain to Jean Baptiste, the last of the prophets, in this testament we see a slow maturation. And therefore humanity, it starts from the greatest barbarism, undoubtedly the Neolithic, which indeed, it is confirmed in the geological layers, is a terrible time, until the justice of a humble man, right, which obeys God and waits for the Savior to deliver him from his own sins. It's Jean Baptiste. In all its phases that can correspond to our own life, we evolve too. And so the Old Testament reveals the way God can give us before we discover Christ. And he speaks to the wicked with harshness. Moses is the example of the hard-hearted man. So he speaks to his people with harshness. He asks her strict obedience without understanding. And if ever the people disobey and set foot on the mountain where God appears, then the people are put to death immediately. God begins with terror because, for hard-hearted men, nothing else works except that. The fear of hell is something that even Baptist John uses. But he says very careful. It must diminish, so that his Jesus, who will speak of love, grow up. Humanity will not stay all the time under the reign of terror. At some point, in the middle of the Old Testament, King David tries to go further, and to love God as a friend. And therefore he decides to take the tabernacles, where dwells the presence of God, and to put him in his house, to be able to pray whenever he wants. And in the process of transporting this tabernacle, a man from the crowd, who sees that he is going to pay, because 4 priests carry him on a stretcher, tries to hold him back. Then God threw himself, said the Bible, on this man and killed him. Then David was afraid and would not take the Ark of the Covenant at home. He put it in the house of a priest who was blessed. That means that at that time God does not want this friendship yet. David is not able, he was a warrior. He has a lot of blood on his hands. He asks her not terror, but respect, and certainly not the friendship of equality. It's not revealed yet. Third step. Baptist Jean and all the anawim, that is the poor yahve of the time that precedes the coming of Jesus. We love God. We know that he loves his people, but no friendship. We cannot. We do not know him yet. We love him, as a humble servant, who know that he is a good master. But these people are few, because there is still the memory of the time of Moses. And finally comes Jesus, who will reveal not only the heart of the Father, but the Trinity, but who will reveal that we can love him of equality, of a love of friendship, which can go as far as intimacy, that it looks like the union of the husband and the wife, obviously spiritually. From there, we can understand religions. Do Muslims have the same God as us? Yes, say the popes, except they do not know him like us. They are at the age of humble servants, while among Christians the greatest mystics live from this intimate relationship, but not all Christians are in this relationship of nuptials. Some consider God as their father, others like their friends. Everyone finds this spirituality. The essential thing being that what specifies Christianity is a relationship of love, of friendship on par with a God who has lowered and raised us.